I remember when I was playing, like before I got into a second contract, which took a while, that there was no single greater motivation than contract year, right? It's like, this is it. Like, this is from 8 years old. This is the year right here that's going to decide whether I can take care of my family the way I want to or not.
Gotcha.
Right. This is the year. So it's natural to put a lot more into that, you know what I'm saying, into that year. And it's, I mean, anybody that says otherwise, I think they're lying. I think they're full of shit.
Right.
You know, but it just is what it is. Like you're next door to the bag and you trying to get next door.
Right.
Over the last 10 to 15 years, the National Football League has changed the way that the game has been played. Scoring is up, and that's absolutely by design. However, is it at the defense's detriment? Some of the things that defensive players have to think about in a split second can always be a detriment not only to their pocket, but also to their health. We got a special guest here today. We got the brains behind LTB Sports, 10-year NFL veteran Darren Howard, to kind of explain what's going on through the mindset of an NFL player in the moment, and maybe how some of the positions have changed and how some of the rules have changed for the better or for the worse. Let's get into this.
All right. Again, welcome back to the show. Hey, Darren Howard is here with us today, the commish of the LTB Sports community. What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
I appreciate you joining us today. We are talking a little bit of football. So let's just get into this, man. First off, tell us a little bit of your story, where you came from and your journey to and from the NFL.
Born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida. Obviously played Little League football, high school football, been playing since I was 8, you know, so just developed a love for the game really early. Funny story about how I got introduced into football. I was actually going to watch my godbrother play baseball at a baseball field. He was a little bit over, like 2 or 3 years older. And the back of the baseball field had tall stands. And if you looked off the back side of the stands, there was a football field. And there were kids in full pads hitting each other, making a lot of noise, playing football. I had never seen it before. Instantly, I got drawn into that. I ended up joining that organization. And then from there, just kept playing and kept playing. I think that was really an edge for me, because when I got to high school in those days, I was one of the very few at my high school that it wasn't my first time playing football in 9th grade. Gotcha. You know, I had been playing for 6-7 years. Right. So, I mean, instantly I have a little bit of an edge there. So, played through high school, started JV, went to varsity, blue chip All-American, got recruited, went on all the trips.
Right.
And somehow ended up at Kansas State. So, yeah, all the way from Florida. So, I went a long way, but I kind of knew what I was looking for. I was looking for a program that was going to win we were going to win some games, and that I can get on the field early, So that worked out, and we ended up being better than I ever expected us to be at that school. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story, the short form story, and a lot of things in between, but you have to talk about all that. Yeah.
I understand. Well, I mean, I think you may have perfected your craft a little bit at K-State. There was a guy there. He was okay. I mean, he wasn't great. He used to whip you. He was a left guard. I don't know how he whipped you. I don't know why he whipped you, but he whipped you.
Yeah.
And taught you a little bit about the game. But more importantly, he probably taught you a little bit about basketball. He's going to go nameless. I'm not going to say who he was or what he was, but just a guy there, just a guy at K-State. I don't know. We'll move on now. We'll move on.
Yeah, we'll just move on from that. I will say he definitely was a better basketball player than I gave him credit for when I first saw him. So I'll give him that much, but I don't know about the rest. The rest is debatable.
I gotcha. So digging into this football stuff, man, I mean, it has changed, obviously, since your last year of playing. The rules have changed a ton. So, you played for 10 years, and things have changed since then. the quarterback has literally become untouchable to where they used to be able, you could hit them. I mean, let's just go way back. You could destroy a quarterback. I mean, there were times when guys were just getting clotheslined and anything went when you hit the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the rules, and I think deservingly so. I mean, it got brutal. But now it's guys are just regular tackle. A guy turning and throwing the quarterback down while he's still got the ball in his hand, just making a regular tackle, are now being flagged.
Right.
As a former defensive end, and your job is literally to hit the quarterback, tell me, in that split-second decision, if you're thinking, you know what, if I hit this guy in the wrong spot, it could literally cost me a game check. Not just a 15-yard penalty. I could get fined, miss a game, whatever the case. How do you, as a defensive end, now in today's game, how would you adjust to that?
I mean, on top of the game check, like you're talking about a movement that you might have to make in this fraction of a second that's not a natural movement, right?
Absolutely.
So besides, the game check, you can hurt yourself,
right?
I mean, you're trying to beat a 300-plus guy around the edge, and you're leaning at a 45-degree angle,
right,
trying to turn the corner against the quarterback, and then you got to think about how you're going to hit the quarterback when you get there, which is almost impossible. You can't practice it. That's the hard thing about it, because you can't practice how to hit the quarterback. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to have somebody on your back also.
Right.
So I just think you look at sports altogether, I think the business model has obviously changed. And I think right now we're going through a rubber band effect where, like you said, you can beat up quarterbacks. You can do anything to them. And then we got to bounce back to middle, but there's a revert effect going the other way. So I think we're so far on the other side of, protecting the quarterback and protecting everybody that the game is suffering a little bit.
Right.
I think it's going to be a while before that's realized by the leagues. And I mean, you can look at across any sport. You look at basketball, like you can't play defense like you used to. They're calling fouls all over the place, left and right, wide receivers you can't hit, so they want offense, they want numbers, which I get, but it puts the onus and the responsibility on the defensive players. And, I don't really know how you practice it, you perfect it, and you make sure you're within the rules. I mean, the guys are getting better, but, I forget what game it was, but, a quarterback fake sliding down and then went on to run for 60 yards because everybody thought he was sliding. I forget what game it was or who it was, but that's a byproduct of that. Like, and the fans love it, of course, but as a defensive player, like, you're like, yo,
right,
like, come on, like, what are we supposed to do?
Right.
But those, you got to protect the quarterback, I guess. I mean, they know what they signed up for, right? I mean, it's just like everybody else. So I'm just one of the guys that think whatever, once you sign up for something, whatever happens to you, and you deal with it, Correct. So I don't feel, bad for people that get hurt. I mean, it comes with the territory. It is what it is. So as long as it's not dirty or illegal, which almost everything is now, but it's kind of hard to decipher at this point.
And that's kind of the whole, the conundrum is that everything is illegal, where things that everybody thinks are legal plays, it's like, how are you flagging me for this when all I'm doing is tackling a guy? Tell me how I'm supposed to tackle him. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier in, you're leaning at a 45-degree angle. You have this super athletic 330-pound guy that's also pushing on you. And then you're on top of that, you have to hit a moving target. It's not like the quarterbacks are just standing there saying, hey, come and hit me. They're actually moving to try to get out of the way. So it just makes it difficult, kind of jumping in or changing topics, and not topics, but the direction. Offense is ultra important right now. It's just what you said. They're wanting tons of points all the time. And a position that you play, defensive end, used to be either the second or third most important position on a football field. With the rules changes, that's dropped off, and now it's receivers. Or you got to have receiver. You got to have a quarterback. Then you got to have a left tackle, and
Right.
you also need a receiver. And those are the three, for the most part, the three highest paid guys that you're going to have. Every now and then you're going to have an outlier as a defensive lineman, defensive end, or maybe a corner. But those are the guys.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, how does the defense catch up? Is there how offense is always moving and defensive players are always playing catch up anyway? That's the nature of the business. How can the defense catch up to what the offenses are now doing? Is there any way that they can do that with these rule changes?
No, I don't think there's a way to catch up. I don't think there is. I mean, even if you look at the rules one of the rules that used to be illegal is the Tush Push that they went and talked about at the meetings this year.
Right.
That used to be illegal.
Yep.
You couldn't do it. And why would you change that rule? To make it easier to score. Right. And then people are in a little bit of an uproar about it. Hey, like if you got a strong quarterback and a strong interior line, you're going to get 2 or 3 yards every single time. We want to take that out. So they went back to talk about it and decided yet again, hey, we're going to let them do that.
Correct.
Right? That's offense. Like, what do you can't, as a defensive planner, you can't do anything about that. You can't strategize against that. Like if you got Kelsey and those two guys and Jalen is squatting 500 pounds, like what are you going to do on the 1 yard line?
Correct.
There's no scheme. There's no nothing. Right. So there's certain rules that you can't do anything about. Like you just got to try harder, I guess. So try harder. I don't know. I mean, but I think over time it'll even out. That's my hope anyway. But besides that, like just the game is just becoming less physical, and not only within the game, but the practice schedule and the training schedule. They're very, very limited on what they can do, which is why I think, especially like in the NBA now, they're talking about so many injuries going around, because they don't spend enough time training those muscles and those tendons and those joints to do the things that they're going to do on game day. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I could have played 20 years if I had the schedule they had now. Like they don't do anything. They don't hit. Like, I mean, it's crazy. They only put on pads, but like once a week, maybe in training camp a couple times. It's like, once you get there, you're good. So, but as far as catching up and trying to figure out, all you do is sit in the meetings. The officials come in, they tell you what rules have changed, and they show you some film, and you say, okay, and then you go play football. And then if you do something wrong, they throw a flag. But I mean, I don't think there's anything you can do defensively. You just got to play within the rules, try to. And I mean, you can't really scheme around it, especially, some of the fouls where, they're not really defined. They haven't been around long enough to be really defined. Like they have a definition in the book, but when live action happens, like what's launching, what's not launching, he still had 1 foot down. His shoulder pad hit him under the chin. It didn't hit his helmet, but y'all think it hit his helmet. It's like, it's too much gray area. The gray area is too wide, right? So you can't really define it. So my attitude about it is if you can't define it, and if there's not a hard line, you just got to let it go. You just got to let it go and just let people play football. So
well, and it's funny. It's not funny, but you mentioned it earlier as far as guys getting hurt, doing things to avoid penalty, avoid fines, and all those sorts of things. It's absolutely true. And it ties into what you just said. It's like at some point, you just got to let guys play football. Because if you're not letting guys play football, then what are you doing? I mean, because the defense is at such a disadvantage. If it keeps going and going and going, they're going to be at such a disadvantage. You're going to have a lot of guys that literally aren't even going to want to play defense because it's like, look, I can't do anything.
Right.
And then you're going to start seeing guys get paid less and less money on the defensive side of the football for the simple fact is, you know what? You can't be as much of an impact player as somebody on the offensive side. You think that ties into it at all? Or do you still think that guys are still going to want to play football and hit people like that?
I don't know, man. Like, I think about that every once in a while. Like, the rules stay the way they are. And kids are brought up differently to, respect the different kind of rules that they have rather than what we have. Do we do downhill contact safeties cease to exist?
Correct.
If in the cover 3, does the strong safety still come down and fit like a linebacker, or does does he just become another cornerback? So I don't know. I mean, and another thing you said about, I never really thought about it, but the hierarchy of the positions. The rule change as far as hitting the quarterback is one thing, but I think pressure is pressure.
Correct.
Like, you can not sack a quarterback, you can not hit a quarterback all game and still affect how he throws the ball.
Sure.
So it's still a hand-to-hand comparison or working together between getting pressure and covering up guys, right? The defense can still cover up guys. You just got to be careful how you hit them. So the route trees are the same. Guys are running routes a little bit different, like the little stutter steps and the thing, how they come off the line is different. Like back then, you just get off the line and get into your route. Everybody ran the route the same way, right? It's a little bit different, but the route trees are the same pretty much. I mean, how many routes can you draw up? And getting to the quarterback is the same. It's just, you just got to be careful.
Right.
It's just a contact point, But I would say receivers are a little bit more important than they used to be in volume, because you need more good receivers.
Correct.
Right? You don't need better receivers, you just need more of them. Like, you can't, you used to be able to get away with one good receiver. Like, one superstar receiver, you would be good. And like, you can't do that anymore. Like, there are too many good cover corners, too many safeties that can cover. You got hybrid linebackers that can cover almost anybody. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot harder. You need 2 solid guys and, somebody coming in as the third guy that can really get open in the slot. So, but the game has changed. It's getting harder and harder for the defense, and it's getting easier for the offense. And I think that's by design. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they want points, and points generates revenue and advertising dollars, and that's just the way it works, which I get that. The thing that always drives me, it drives me insane, it does, is because they say safety first, and anytime you go to YouTube or pull up anything NFL related, the first thing that you see is NFL's biggest hits. That's the first thing that you see. It doesn't matter. You pull up something, it is always NFL's biggest hits, and they will have 100,000 views on that thing. Yep. And that is what people want to see, because I tell you, if they put the rules back to where they were 10, 15 years ago, you're not going to get less fans. I guarantee it. Guys getting hit, quarterbacks getting hit, you are not going to get less fans.
I'll push back on that a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to push back on the having less fans. I think they got more. The effort to get more fans is always at the forefront of the NFL. So, number one, how do we get more viewership? And the only reason they will make any rule change is it'll go through the first filter of, do we get more viewership from this, right? So if our star quarterback is on the field longer, do we get more viewership? Yes. Okay, so we changed this rule, right? So it's I think you would lose because you would stop gaining. You would stop gaining viewership. Like there are way more casual fans, football fans, than there are true fans that know the game, that used to play the game, right?
Sure.
You got to keep recruiting fans. You got to recruit the 7-year-old, the 7, 8-year-old,
right?
To come see the game, and they're excited. How do you do that? It's not by 3 yards in a cloud of dust football.
No.
It's not by a 9-12 game, right? No. It's touchdowns.
Sure.
Long plays, long passes, long runs. And the only thing that I think they've done so far to minimize their reach is get rid of kick returns. I thought getting rid, pretty much eliminating kick returns by the rule changes. I think that's the only thing that's hurt them. That could hurt them as far as viewership is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you take out the punishment in a kick return. I really don't. When guys, even they got them standing at the 40-yard line and can't run until the ball is kicked. If you pooch it or just kick it down to the 5-yard line where they got to return it, what are you going to do? There's still going to be a big collision. I don't know how unless guys just kick it out of the end zone every time, I'm not sure how you can eliminate that altogether.
Yeah, I think in a vacuum, I think that was a loss. I think they know it was a loss as far as the excitement of the game. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and it all comes down to numbers, and it all comes down to, how much money you can keep, because you can make money, and if you can't keep it because NFL players are suing you, then it's not going to work out either, right? So I think you have to bring in new people, but you also have to protect the shield, and you have to consider that we still have these lawsuits out here, right? Still got these lawsuits out here, and they're still going through the concussion thing, even though some of it is settled, some of it is not.
So as far as, we were talking about positions and things becoming, more important than others. One position that, when you played that was an important position is the running back position. That has been getting phased out the last 10 years. It's basically a churn and burn type of situation. Draft the guys, get 3, 4, possibly 5 years out of them, and then draft another guy. Don't give the guy a second contract. Very few running backs, and they have to be the elite of the elite, get a second contract. I don't see that trend stopping anytime soon, Darren. What about you?
I don't see the trend stopping, but I don't fully understand it.
Right.
To a point I do, but I feel like the notion that running backs don't last long is more prevalent than running backs not lasting long.
Absolutely.
So,
I believe that.
So that narrative is out there, and anybody at that position has to try to fight that narrative. I don't think so just so we're clear, I don't think the importance of the running back position is even smaller.
No.
I just think the individuals that play the running back position, organizations don't believe can carry the load for long periods of time.
Right.
Which, unless you're talking about linemen, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, interior, or safeties, sometimes wide receivers, like your prime is like 90% of the guy, your prime is like 4 to 5 years.
Right.
So you're not always at the peak. So I think running backs are the same, but I do believe they take more punishment. So they wear down a lot, and they wear down, relatively quickly. But I just think it's more evident because you see them all the time.
Right.
Like you're not looking at the strong safety every single play. You're looking at that running back. He's got the ball, or he's pass protecting, or he's the check down guy. So everything he does, you see it, and you can measure it by what he did last game or what he did last year. So, like I get it, but I don't buy into the fact that running backs just don't last. Like if you're a good running back, like a lot of it is mental.
Sure.
If you can block as a running back, you're going to be able to block for a long time.
Right.
It's not, if it's in you and that's what you're good at, you can do that. If you can catch the ball, you can catch the ball.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You might get slow on your cuts, but I don't know. I think as far as like, if we talk about Zeke, I think Zeke definitely fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it started with the big contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which there's always a peak, an apex, right?
Absolutely.
It's right before you get that starting that new contract that year before you get it, and then the other side of that when you just got the contract. A lot of times that's the sharpest decline,
right?
Over and over again, right? And then it's up to that player what they want to do after that. Whether they want to be a good player or they just good with being paid, right? Because money not only is the driving force of the NFL, it's the driving force of us individually. You know, and once you get that, you gotta have more mental fortitude. Be like, this is not enough. I'm not just satisfied with this. I didn't do this just for this. You know, I didn't do this just for money. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be good. I wanted to help my team. Whatever the role is, you still want to do that.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, sometimes guys get caught up, which is natural. Like, it's just, I remember when I was playing, like before I got into a second contract, which took a while, that there was no single greater motivation than contract year. Right? It's like, this is it. Like, this is from 8 years old. This is the year right here that's going to decide whether I can take care of my family the way I want to or not.
Gotcha.
Right? This is the year. So it's natural to put a lot more into that, you know what I'm saying, into that year. And anybody that says otherwise, I think they're lying. I think they're full of shit. You know, but it just is what it is. Like, you're next door to the bag and you trying to get next door.
Right.
So, but I think Zeke still got enough to offer, but I just think the NFL is stuck in his mindset that, you know, because he wasn't as good as he once was, that he's no good. You know what I mean? And,
well, he was also splitting carries.
He was also splitting
carries.
He
wasn't splitting carries before. I'm not saying he's the same, but he's serviceable.
Well, yeah, you can look past the numbers. Like, we played, so we can look past the number of carries and then the yards and the catches and all that, because I just got to see a drive, and I can tell you if he's the same guy or not.
Absolutely.
That's it.
That's it.
I mean, I think like you said in a previous episode, like, he's serviceable. You know, like, he knows position. He's a vet, and he's a locker room presence from what we've heard. So, I mean, I think he still has value. I think a lot of older running backs still have value. They might not be as springy as the young guys, but, I mean, you know, let guys talk down on you enough. Like, Breece Hall got 2 years left. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it just seems like it's the years that people are expecting running backs to play are getting shorter and shorter. And I think it's a little, it's not equal with reality to my
correct. Well, I mean, and they always say, I mean, if a running back, if he gets hurt once, he's on the downhill slide. Right. And I'm like, first of all, it's football. You get hurt. You're going to get hurt. There's nobody that's ever played football that didn't get hurt. Right. You know, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden I got hurt once. Like, there's no rehab that can help me get back to where I was. I just don't believe that. And you're right. The running back position, it's not been devalued. It's been, I don't know what the actual word is. It's just, again, the reality of it is you can still play running back for a while. Maybe you don't have the spring that you had, you know, when you initially came in the league. And I go, but sometimes that's okay. You might be a better runner. You might be a better pass blocker, you know, because you've been in the league and you understand what to do better than, you know what, give me the ball, I'm just going to run. You know, you can set up blocks better, you know, things of that nature. That takes, I mean, that's a skill that people don't give credit for. And sometimes you don't know that when you first get into the league. You can be big, strong, and fast, but you know what? You might not have vision, but you can learn vision. Yeah. So,
and you're probably 9 times out of 10, and these like round numbers. Like, I'm saying 9 times out of 10, but these are my scientific facts. Right. That you're going to be the fastest, the strongest, and the springiest on draft day that you're ever going to be in your career. Like as soon as you leave college, even if you want a workout warrior in college, you're a workout warrior between your last game and combine. Right. And draft, and before you go to it. So after that, like, there's a sharp decline unless you just one of those guys
Right.
Unless you're, you know, I mean, who's a workout? Unless you're Aaron Donald, you know. So unless you're what's his name? Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker. Jesus.
Oh, James Harrison.
James Harrison. Unless you're James Harrison, like he might be stronger now than he was
Right.
at 20. But I mean, that's a that's a needle in the haystack. You find those type of guys. But generally speaking, like you're not going to be better shape. It's all a decline after draft day,
right?
Unless you have the initiative to be somebody else and do something else.
Gotcha. Makes sense, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with us, man. You know, and being part of the show. You know, 1v1 LTB Sports. We appreciate it, man. Anything coming around the pike for LTB Sports, man? What's going on next?
Just continue to try to grow, you know, be consistent, put out quality content. Right now we have this show, the 1v1 show, and we're looking to do other content. We got a model called Talking Heads Say, which is just a mashup of what the pundits are saying out there, where people can take what everybody's saying, we just put into one little neat package and people can watch that. We're working on a series called, which I think we're going to call Run It Back, which is basically sports history, you know, talking about relevant moments in sports back in history that are iconic, and just kind of giving out some facts, that little known facts that people might not know. We're working on The Hill, which is like a multi-guest platform where guys just argue about whatever. So we got a couple of different concepts that we're working on, just trying to grow and stay consistent, not trying to be the biggest and the best, just trying to be good. So, and provide good content.
All right. I appreciate it. Any place where we can check the stuff out at right now? Where can we find it?
We're LTB Sports, everything. This thing started from a Facebook group. It's Let's Talk Ball. And a lot of our guests so far have been from that platform, from that group. But we're growing outside of that. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, obviously, and just keep a lookout on. We're growing, and we're just trying to get better every day. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you, and we will talk to you again soon.
For sure.